So once again, we're talking about learning and behavioral analysis. And we were talking about, the definition for learning. I go way back to that we had on the first video. Learning is a process based on experience that results in a change in behavior or behavior potential. The definition for learning hasn't changed. The definition for learning is still the same. And learning can affect the areas of learning, once again, of performance, appreciation, and understanding. And those haven't changed. But now we're trying to understand behavior and understand learning and look at the effects of learning on behavior. So in the last video I was telling you that the mental side or the logical side, I shouldn't say mental, the logical side can override the emotional side. And so, that's a tough one, okay? That's like saying to somebody who's addicted to nicotine, addicted to smoking, that you can use logic to stop that, and it's easier said than done, okay? And so there's a lot of things there. So we go into new research, okay? So this is once again Powell in 2011. Wow, we're talking about pretty updated research here. And once again, it's et al. Several other people are doing similar research. We're talking about unconditioned stimuli and responses, okay? Unconditioned stimuli and unconditioned responses, which means we learn something, but what's the hidden thing that causes us, that causes us to be able to have that response? So we've got Powell in 2011 says fear from a traumatic event is definitely an unconditioned stimuli. So he's saying that when we come in there, that anytime something bad has happened to us, that we have a fear of that happening again. Okay. So for example, it comes into play from a traumatic event. So for example, let's say that a person, there's several examples. Let's say that a person's house burns down. I hope that's never happened to anybody, and if it has, I apologize for using that example. But if a person's house burns down, okay, then they're going to be really cautious with anything involving fire, and whether it's lighting a match or lighting a gas stove or whatever. So they're going to be cautious. So what's he saying? He's saying that even though we know how to light a match and what the safety procedures of fire are in fire safety, he's saying that if we've had something bad happen, that's going to have some effect on our behavior. Okay. Now there's several examples for that, but right now I just want you to know that fear from a traumatic event can become an unconditioned stimuli. Once again, what's a stimuli? Something that happens in our life that we store in the associations, that it goes back through, and it's going to have a response. Okay? So it's unconditional stimuli and unconditional responses can result from fear. Now, I want to talk to you another part of research right now, and it's the associations of unconditioned stimuli and unconditioned responses. All right? The advertising world plays on this tremendously. Okay? So you see one thing, okay, and I hate to use the word subliminal. Okay, I hate to use the word subliminal. Subliminal advertising is kind of interesting, because subliminal advertising is kind of interesting. Like you go to the movie theater and they have all these different screens that play, and your eye can only process so many. Okay, it's kind of like if you've ever seen a bunch of drawings like they used to do the old cartoons, and then flash them in front of you, and the person, like you all picture this, and then this, and this, and then you see the person moving. And so in the movie theater, you have thousands and thousands of pictures that make one object. So for example, here comes a car, it's going over a cliff, it's fixing to crash, boom, and it catches into fire. That's hundreds of pictures of the car. And then so you don't see all the pictures. Instead, you just get the feeling of the car moving, going over the cliff, catching on fire, boom, exploding. So what subliminal is kind of interesting, because subliminal means that your brain is able to see all of them, but you don't process all of them. It's called closure. You just fill in the blanks. So what the theater used to do, okay, I don't think they do it much anymore, But the theater used to do subliminal advertising. And what they would do is this would be running through, and then in one of those screens, they would put popcorn on there, a bag of popcorn. And then a little bit later, another bag of popcorn, and a little bit later, another bag of popcorn. And then a little bit later, a Coke, okay? And the Coke had ice in it, and it just had a little fizz coming up where you could see the CO2. Of course, the popcorn had a little butter dripping off. And man, I mean, subliminal. So in your mind, it was really interesting because in the studies, and in your book references some of these studies, it's really interesting. In the studies, the theater would literally know when the subliminal information was going to come across, okay? And so they would actually really get the popcorn ready and the Cokes ready, and here you are, you're watching this movie, and this car's crashing and all this stuff, but in the middle you see popcorn, 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 Coke, Coke. So right now, you're probably pausing your video and going out and making you some kettle corn and getting you a Dr. Pepper. Okay, no, don't do that, okay, but you can pause and come back, but unless you're sitting in class somewhere, all right. So, but in this case, okay, advertisers use the unconditional response. And I'll say subliminal in that they're seeing this, it's unconditional. It's not what their mind is focused on, okay? And so we play on these emotions. So now we don't use subliminal as much as we use unconditional responses. Our behavior now, it's almost like we're attention deficit disorder. Our mind, even though we're focused on one thing, our mind is getting all the stimuli in. Okay, our mind is getting all the stimuli in. So we got all this stuff going on. Okay, McDonald's got in trouble for some subliminal advertising years ago. And what they did was, it was really interesting, and they actually got fined for this. You would walk into McDonald's and you would think, what am I going to order? And they had a hamburger air freshener that literally would put the smell of hamburger in the air. And you go in, you're going to say, I'll get a salad, I'll take a quarter pounder. Okay? And so it was kind of interesting because unconditioned, you don't know that you're going to have that. However, and it's kind of interesting because when we say unconditioned, you already are conditioned to the smell of hamburger, and you associate that with a good taste of hamburger. So now what we do for advertisements is we use misdirection, okay? So Doritos had one I saw this the other day on a commercial, and I thought this fits what we're talking about as an unconditioned response. Okay, so maybe you've seen this commercial. All right. So this really average guy is eating Doritos. Okay, this really average guy is eating Doritos. And so as he's eating Doritos, all of a sudden, all of the good-looking, sexy women come over to him, and they're like, "Hey, what's your name?" And all of a sudden, so they're trying to take this misdirection, this unconditional response, and make the association. See, that's where we're at now. Learning is association in your mind. What do you associate with this? And if you associate it with that, and it's a positive reward, then it's a better chance it's going to happen. If it's a negative reward, then there's a bigger chance that's not going to happen. So with that Doritos commercial, you're going to associate that eating Doritos would cause girls to like you. Well, isn't that kind of ironic? Because eating Doritos is probably going to give you the worst breath you can imagine. And if you're already not all that enticing to beautiful women, eating Doritos is probably not going to increase that chance. But that's the association, and that's the study of Powell and others, is that these other unconditional responses are contributing to our behavior. So we take all these things. Commercials now are just really getting to be, that's their big thing, is it's unconditional responses. How many times have you watched a commercial and you don't even know what they're advertising for? Car commercials. Like I saw a commercial. I don't watch all TV all the time. I just did it as a part of a homework for this assignment. Okay, so I watched this commercial, and they just had this music, and it was some kind of calm, serene thing, and it was an advertisement for a Lexus car. Like, I'm going to go out and buy a Lexus. I don't even know what a Lexus costs. I can't even afford to say Lexus, but but you know, I'm going to go out and buy an $80,000 car based on this commercial. So I got to thinking, what is the unconditional response? Because it wasn't go out and buy a Lexus, but I got to thinking, what is it? And I saw the commercial later again, and I thought, okay, what's the unconditional? I'm thinking about this as a psychologist. What's the unconditional response? The unconditional response was slow down, feel comfortable, feel relaxed. Because who could afford that Lexus? Somebody that's super busy, their mind is stressed, they got to be making all this money, so in business or whatever their job is, they're stressed all the time. So when they want to go buy a car, the unconditioned response was relaxed, slow down. Oh, so then they go to buy a car and they're thinking Lexus, and somehow that association is in their brain of, oh, that will calm me down, I'll be relaxed, okay? So next time you see a commercial, watch and think, what is the unconditional response? Because the unconditional responses are affecting our behavior. So now I want to tell you about the law of effect. The law of effect says that the law of learning states that the power of a stimulus to evoke a response is strengthened when the response is followed by a reward, and it's weakened when it's not followed by a reward. So the law of effect says that when we have a reward, that stimulus is going to cause a similar behavior. When we don't have a reward, then it's not going to cause that behavior. I've got a little grandson, he's a year old. We had kind of a footstool setting there. He climbed up on top of the footstool, and then he climbed down. And we happened to be sitting around, and so everybody just started clapping. Yay! Way to go! He smiled real big, and guess what he did? He climbed up on the footstool again, and guess what he did? He climbed back down. And guess what we did? Yay! And it kind of got to be fun because he did that over and over. Now, he probably did that hours after we left because that behavior was stimulated by positive reward. So we're going to come back in the next video and talk a little bit about a couple different things with positive and negative reinforcements. So I'll see you on the next video.